Gentlemen, this week, the name on the marquee has got to be Tom Aspinall, who this past weekend at UFC Fight Night, Aspinall versus Tybura, in the main event, UFC London at the O2 Arena, defeated Marcin Tybura by TKO via elbow and punches, the official time 113 of the very first round. Mark, start us off here. Your boy's back in the winning column. Aspinall gets it done. Give us your thoughts and your take of his performance.
Yes. Yes, he is. This man might turn out to be one of my greatest early talent pegs that I have had. I thought he could be special very early, and he is special. And it seems like more and more people are starting to realize that, just how good this man is. He friggin' smoked Marcin Tybura after a year on the sidelines. It wasn't even 2 minutes, and yet he managed to show a beautiful high kick, a monster body kick, tremendous speed, lightning quick hands, and never got hit once. He is a special fighter, man. There's nothing he can't do, and I really don't believe there's a ceiling. And we're going to see for sure because, you know, he's throwing names out there now. He's mentioning John Jones in a post-fight interview. Jones is acknowledging him. Like, this is just what I was hoping would happen. His buzz got killed. He lost some time because of that Curtis Blades injury. And, you know, at times he has said, you know, I don't want to rush. I want to take my time, get better. I'm very happy to see him get back in the mix and immediately insert himself into the picture because it is where his talent dictates he should be. He is this good.
Omar, bringing you in here, Tom Aspinall snaps Marcin Tybura's 2-fight win streak, putting him back in the loss column. A bit of a step up for Tybura after fighting Alexander Romanov and Blagoy Ivanov back-to-back. He goes up to Tom Aspinall as a bit of a heat check, and checked he got. Give us your take on the techniques that Tom Aspinall threw out there that ultimately did away with Marcin Tybura and sent him back to the lower rankings.
I mean, it's hard to deny the athleticism of Tom Aspinall. He's somebody that moves very, very gingerly for somebody who weighs like 260 pounds. You're not going to really see a lot of guys like that. I would even argue he moves a lot better than Cyril Gane does. I think he moves with a lot more purpose in mind, both in the striking, but also kind of in the grappling exchanges as well. And I would also argue it's not even really a karate style. It's almost really like a blitz style. So unlike guys like Wonder Boy or even guys like Robert
MVP?
Whitaker, who like to use a lot of their front kicks and things like that MVP as well. MVP's a little bit more showy though, so he does a lot more than the typical range finder when it comes to that kind of movement. But Tom Aspinall is I think even more dynamic when it comes to that kind of stuff, and probably closer to MVP in the sense that he uses a lot of that movement and a lot of that back and forth movement to sort of distract and change up the timing, and then he will blitz on different counts. And that punch, you could see Tybura wasn't really reacting to it or didn't react to it as quickly because it was on an offbeat, and I think it really threw him off. But it landed, and it sat Tybura right down, and you gotta love the finishing instincts from Tom Aspinall. It's very hard to deny how good this kid is. It's very hard not to want to see him fight the cream of the crop at this point, and it's very hard not to think that a fight with John Jones, I'm not going to go full Bisbing and say John Jones can't hold a candle to him. That shit is crazy. Those exact words are wild. I think it would be competitive. I think it'll be fun. I think Tom Aspinall will make a good showing of himself. I don't necessarily know if he wins or not, but I don't think he gets run over like I think a lot of the other heavyweights probably would against John Jones. I'm very intrigued by the whole thing.
Man, I mean, he gets right back in the win column in emphatic fashion after an 8-fight win streak snapped by a snapped knee against Curtis Blades in the first 15 seconds of that fight after eating one leg kick from Curtis Blades. A bit of a freak thing. Would have absolutely loved to see how that fight played out. Would love to see them maybe run it back one day. But Man, he won his first, I think it was 5 fights in the UFC, all by finish. I believe Tom Aspinall has yet to win a fight by decision, and almost all of his fights have been finished in the first round, and not many of them have gone past more than, 2 or 3 minutes. So, yeah, that being said, Mark.
He doesn't need much, man.
Yeah. Mark, getting right back in the win column, what do you think should be next? If you were the matchmaker of the UFC, Aspinall's throwing out some big names out there, what would you do?
So I know he mentioned showing up in Paris to watch Cyril Gane versus Sergey Spivak and potentially fighting the winner of that fight, and maybe that's where this does go. Granted, he already smoked Sergey Spivak. I don't know if people are forgetting that, so it really only makes sense if the winner's Cyril Gane. But, man, it sure feels a lot more like it should be Aspinall and Pavlovich, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Unless, of course, they've already told Pavlovich that he is fighting the Bone Stipe winner. But with the activity rate of those two guys, he may end up waiting another year for that. So he might be better off taking another fight anyway. But that's the fight, man. You know, in an ideal world where John Jones fought more, what I had in my brain was first he tries to defend against Miocic. If he does that, he tries to defend against Pavlovich, and then by that point, Aspinall is there. And in my head, I was like, if he can run through that, it will be like one of the most incredible runs. But it just doesn't seem like the activity of Bones at this point, the mentions of retirement now, it doesn't seem like it's going to line up that way. So with him already mentioning the retirement idea, I almost think you got to set up Pavlovich and Aspinall and hope that one guy wins and hopefully does it really impressively, calls him out, and maybe entices him to do one more. And I don't mean to dismiss Stipe here. Of course, he could beat Jones and throw this whole thing, upside down. But I'm trying to get to Bones and Aspinall because I've been wanting that to happen for a long time.
Yeah, that would be crazy. Also, I think Omar alluded to it. Aspinall and Gane would be an absolutely fascinating matchup. Those two guys, two heavyweights that move like middleweights, would be incredible. Omar, what about you? Any other bright ideas for what you would do next?
Sorry. Not really. Mark kind of laid out the foundation of it really quick, just especially because of how kind of congested the heavyweight division is, right? We kind of have the fights that we want to see. Jones and Miocic are kind of taking their sweet-ass time at this point. Things were supposed to happen in July, then it got pushed back, and now it's MSG, but, like, who really knows? I keep telling you, I don't believe John Jones gets in the octagon until he's, like, walking down the path. But again, the Cyril Gane one is the one that I think makes sense for his title run. But Sergey Pavlovich, I think, is the one that makes the most amount of sense as far as trying to figure out who the number one contender is. Because I don't even think Cyril Gane winning, he's not getting a rematch with John Jones right now. So it just, it makes more sense to me to figure out who's fighting John Jones next. One of the two guys that makes sense for John Jones to fight in the first place. And that's Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall.
Mark, what were you going to say before?
I was just going to say, as intriguing as Aspinall Gane is, and I agree, simply because of how intriguing it would be on the feet, you'd have to hope Cyril Gane has shored up the grappling. Because if you're Tom Aspinall, you're going into that fight, and you're like, well, I'm not fucking around with this guy. I'm going to take him down as soon as I can. Mm-hmm. And, obviously John Jones is potentially a different beast, but we saw how Gane looked, and Tom Aspinall seems to be nearly as dangerous on the ground. So he's, at least in his mind, he would certainly have an advantage going into that fight.
Yeah.
I think right now the guys that are the biggest issue at heavyweight are Sergey Spivak, Tom Aspinall, and Jailton Almeida. Those three dudes right now.
You meant, right?
What did I say?
You said Spivak.
Oh, yes, Pavlovich.
Yeah, agree.
And Jailton Almeida. I think those three guys right now, if I really think about who could give John Jones at the very minimum a run for his money, I think those three guys are the ones that make it the most interesting.
Totally agree. I think those are the three most intriguing heavyweights who have yet to have a title shot.
Mm-hmm. Anything else you guys want to say about Tom Aspinall? You guys want to match up Marcin Tybura real quick?
Yeah, I guess I'll say Jairzinho Rosenstrike for Marcin. It's not the sexiest fight ever, but he's kind of beaten the next tier down. He shouldn't really get the next tier up, and it kind of feels like Rosenstrike is the other guy who's like fitting that bill where he is, and they have not fought, so might as well run those two.
Any other ideas, Omar?
Yep. Nope. I had the same pick, and had Romanoff and him not recently fought like a year ago. I probably would have threw him in the mix as well, but that is the case. So Rosenstreak it is.